So, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for taking time to join us today. My name is Invented Batic. I'm a child advisor for the COVID-19 project. Today, joining me are Mr. Vijay from UNICEF in the headquarters of New York, and Januka the COVID-19 peer mentor. So please, could you just for a brief moment introduce yourselves? What do you do? And what are some of your interests or something interesting you would like the world to know?
Hi everyone, my name is Vijay, and as Tin mentioned, I'm from UNICEF based at our headquarters in New York, but I'm coming to you from Sydney, Australia. And I work on access to justice for children at the global level from UNICEF in New York. Thanks.
Hello everyone, Namaste. I'm Januka from Nepal and I'm a child rights activist. I'm involved in COVID-19 initiative as a peer mentor. Thank you for having me here.
Great, thank you both. So let's get on to the first question. First question will be for Mr. Vijay. What would be the difference in the UNICEF programs if children could always decide adults when programs are decided? So if child participation was brought to another level, how would it make a difference to most UNICEF programs?
Great question, Tin. So Article 12 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child is very dear to UNICEF's heart. And that's the article that talks about children being able to express their views and having those views taken into account. And so we as an organization are really looking at how we put that principle into place across the whole organization. So as you say, in our programming, but also in our operations across the whole organization. Certainly during COVID and before COVID, we witnessed the power of children and young people demanding justice, racial justice, gender justice, climate justice, political and social justice, and impacting change across the world. And that really deeply caught our attention at UNICEF. So as part of our new justice strategy, we have really looked at how do we increase children and young people's participation and involvement in our justice programming across the world. And particularly when it comes to justice, we're paying special attention to groups of children who are overrepresented in the justice system, and children and young people with lived experiences of the justice system, because often they're excluded, right? They're marginalized and their voices aren't heard. So for us, we're really looking at how do we support children and young people to be more involved and at the front of justice reform in their countries and globally. So we're really thinking about that. And what we want to see is we're aiming for children and young people to be at the table of law reform and policy reform with governments and justice actors. We're trying to ensure that children and young people are routinely consulted when policies, when laws are developed. We also want to see children's legal standing and their right to participate included in laws and implemented in real time. So that's kind of our ideas about how children's participation and involvement in UNICEF programming could be more visible.
Thank you very much. That's always to hear that some important changes and progress is being made worldwide. Januka, do you have anything else that you would like to respond, or any interesting observations?
I think you can move to the next question because Vijay addressed this question very, very well, and I loved his answer.
Okay, then we can continue in the next question. So, question number two would be also for you, Mr. Vijay. What can or should be done from the level of the international community to ensure justice for every child during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thanks again, Tin, and a great question again. And, we have seen across the world that the COVID-19 pandemic has had serious impacts on children's rights and the lives of children across the world, and many of them negative. But we've also seen that there have been some moments of progress and some moments and some opportunities that have arisen because of COVID, particularly in the justice field. And I think from our perspective, there's a couple of things that the international community can do. And that is, firstly, look at the results that we have actually achieved during COVID and to build on those results rather than just let them disappear. So, for example, globally, we have seen that in 84 countries, over 45,000 children have been released from detention, which is incredible, an incredible number. And so this gives us the possibility and the possibility to end detention of children globally. If we can release 45,000 children across the world, why do we still need to have children in detention in the long run? Also, I think you may be aware of some of these innovations that we saw over the course of the pandemic in the justice sector. So, for example, virtual courts or delivery of services, mobile delivery of services. So using mobile phones to deliver justice and social services. So those types of things ensured that more children and more families were actually being reached by justice services. We also have to be careful that mobile services, the internet is not equally available across the world. So we need to really work on that. However, these new innovations could potentially be built on, and we could reach more children and their families with these services. Based on these results, UNICEF undertook a process that we called, as many people have called, reimagining justice for children. And the question we were asking ourselves is, in a world, what could we reimagine as justice, access to justice for children? And we came up with 6 asks that we as UNICEF will be undertaking. And I think that we can also call on the international community to join us and to take these actions. So firstly, every child should know and be able to claim their legal rights. Secondly, every child should be able to access free legal assistance. Every child in conflict with the law should be diverted, can be diverted. And every child can be protected from detention. And the final 2 talk about for every child, survivor of sexual abuse, sexual violence, or exploitation and abuse can receive justice. And finally, every child should be able to access a child-friendly and gender-sensitive alternate dispute resolution mechanism or a child-friendly court. So we believe that with all of those actions interconnected, that could be a way to transform access to justice for children across the world.
Thank you again. That's really to hear that there's something positive that came out of the pandemic and that new ideas are being made for imagining the entire, well, not just the justice system, but for the child justice in the world. That's really lovely to hear, and the UNICEF is really working on that. Thank you once again. And the next question is for Januka. Januka, what are the impacts of the COVID-19 crisis on the lives of children, and how can child participation help in building a better post-pandemic world?
So thank you for your question, Teen. And so firstly, what I would say about the impacts of COVID-19, firstly, what I would say about the impacts of COVID-19 on the lives of children is the lives of vulnerable groups of children are affected the most by the pandemic, and uh, moreover, economically deprived and underprivileged children are being pushed towards the worst situation. And COVID pandemic has affected the access to proper nutrition and good health, challenging the rights of good health and well-being. And the situation has also increased in child-related violence, it is related to either child marriage or labor or sexual exploitation of children. It has been rapidly increased during the pandemic, and similarly, the disruption to children's school life has created a great challenge, and it has exacerbated the learning crisis. And the transformation of education to the virtual world seems to result in an increase in online violence, cybercrime, and school dropout rates as well. And not only this, this situation of COVID crisis has badly affected the lives of children by isolating them and resulting to depression, anxiety, and distancing them from society, being alone. And they face a lot of physical and mental traumas. And what I think is we adults should be responsible for addressing their rights by hearing them. We should address their problems and we should listen to them actually. And I think we should work for the protection of child rights during this pandemic, especially because this is the time where child rights have been badly affected than the other time. And moving towards your second question about how child participation can be helpful in creating a better post-pandemic world. Firstly, I would say child participation means children will remain engaged, and they won't get isolated in topics related to them. And the other thing is, if we think about children, then children reveal a face of vulnerability, and that their problems may not be known by adults. They might not be understood by the adults. So only if we engage children in decision making, I think their problems can be easily addressed. And the one who faces the problems understand a way far more better than anyone else. So I think children can themselves uh, play an effective role in addressing their own problems. And what and the other thing about child participation is, if we involve children in decision making and if we hear from children during the pandemic, then they will understand the situation practically, and that will help them in creating a better post-pandemic world when they know about their problems, when they can act accordingly. And the earlier we start involving children, the more we create a habit, and the more it becomes the part of social norms and social agendas, let's say. So child participation during the pandemic will surely help in creating a better post-pandemic world, as they can raise their voice, and as they can show their creativeness in an early age. And it is obvious that children, today's children are tomorrow's future builder, tomorrow's leader. So if they are making a strong base today by their participation, then that can really contribute in creating a strong world, strong development in the world in the days to come. So yeah, child participation is the most. Thank you.
Sorry, interesting points you made there, Januka. Thank you very much. Also, thank you all for joining us today. especially you, Mr. Vijay and Januka. Thank you for wonderful responses. They were very informative. And also thank you to all of you who watched us. Please do, if you have any questions, join us later and enjoy the rest of the Child Rights Festival with us. And again, happy Child Rights Day 2021.
Thank you so much, Tin.
Thank you so much.